The walls of the city of Jerusalem were mere rubble. This news made Nehemiah very sad. So Nehemiah began to rebuild. He led the people day in and day out. Enemies attacked, but they overcame. God helped them finish the work in only 52 days. The Jews who had once been in captivity now returned home. Change your world in 52 days. The story of Nehemiah.
Good afternoon, how you doing? Aren't you glad to be in church today? It's been so good. So good. My name is Aaron. I'm one of the teaching pastors here at the church. I'm glad to be able to share with you for a couple minutes. This is week 3 of a series that Pastor Dave started 2 weeks ago. It's called Change Your World in 52 Days. And Pastor Dave and Becca are still on their trip in Europe, and I've been seeing some pictures. It's just incredible, and we're so excited for how God is using him at the conference that he spoke at there, and the lives of the leaders, the pastors that he was able to invest in. And then they get a chance to kind of do some just like vacationing, which is just totally awesome. So keep on praying for them. They'll be back soon, but we're excited for what they're doing. How many of you enjoyed that young man who led worship today? Yeah. So proud moment for me. He's my nephew. I taught him everything that, no, I ain't teaching him. He just graduated last year from Southeastern University and now is a worship pastor at a church in Naples, Florida. And he was a part of our worship team yesterday at the Lead the Generation conference that my wife and I host at the University of Valley Forge. And so it was so great. And I asked Garrett if he'd stay over and lead today. And he was like, yeah, I'll do it. And secret, but he's single, by the way, just I will auction off his phone number right now. I'm just saying. I will raise some money for missions or something. But just an incredible young man with a great call of God on his life, and just awesome. How many of you made it through the winter season without catching the flu? That's worth like being happy about, right? I was not so lucky, and so you made it through without the flu. Good for you, right? Oh, that kind of rhymed. Like that was kind of good. But man, 2 weeks ago, like it hit me, and I was like, whoa, what happened? And I'm trying to be a man and tough it out, and finally my wife was like, she drugged me to the doctor one day. She's like, let's go, and I'm like, I'll be fine. And then the doctor looks at me, and he was just like, you're not gonna be fine. You need this drug, and he just like was loading me up. And so they gave me one of those what are those ventilator things? Not a ventilator, inhaler. They gave me one of those inhaler things, right? I didn't even know how to use it. Like I don't know what to do. So I'm like using this thing, and in the mornings, I have like a very specific routine of things that I do in the morning. Getting up, letting the dogs go outside, making coffee for my wife, good husband type stuff. And then usually once I'm done with all that, I sit down, and then my pup, my short-haired pointer pup, Nakota, he jumps up and he cuddles up beside me, and I put him under a blanket. And it's kind of like this very manly thing I do every morning when I cuddle with my puppy. And don't laugh at me. Come on. You must be a cat lover. I know you have issues. So I'm sitting there, and I'm sick, and I'm starting to cough and everything, and he's out like a light, and so I'm like, I should try this inhaler. And so I reach over and I grab it, and and it kind of makes that sound. It's kind of a weird sound, right? And I don't know what it was about the sound, but I'm telling you, as soon as I did it, he like erupted from my, like, under the blanket, and like blankets flying. He's spinning around in circle trying to get out from underneath of it, and turns around. Now he's standing. I'm sitting. He's standing here, all 4 paws on the couch, and he's a pointer. So when he gets like interested in something, like one leg pops up, right? And he's pointing at me, and the look on his face is like, what just happened to you? Why do you sound like Darth Vader right now? Like what's going? And it freaked him out. And I'm like, it's okay, just lay down. And he wouldn't lay down. Ran to the other side of the living room, laid down on the couch there, and stared at me for an hour straight. You ever like have one of those creepy pictures that looks like the eyes are looking at you everywhere? He just stared at me. And so this went on for days. And all of a sudden I realized I am losing cuddle time with my puppy because he's afraid of my breathing habits. And I'm like freaking out, and I'm like, and so, now this is how pathetic I am, my love for my dog. I started trying to breathe quieter whenever he was around me. Isn't that sad? Like, I'm just like weird and just goofy and very superficial. But and if I was going to use the inhaler, I'd like walk out of the room because I don't want to freak the dog out. And I'm laughing at myself because while all this is going on, I'm writing this message today, which really is taken right from the life of Nehemiah, and it's Nehemiah having such a strong focus and mission in his life, right? A purpose. He wants his life to make an impact, not for his own benefit, but for the benefit of other people. And here I am, and my current mission statement in life is to get my puppy to cuddle with me without being afraid of me sounding like Darth Vader when I'm like trying to get over my sickness, right? And I'm thinking, how superficial and shallow is this? And then the thought hit me, and it's kind of a sad thought. The thought hit me that there's so many people in life that this is exactly how they live, with either no mission at all, or the mission that they do have, the purpose that they think they have in life, is so shallow and superficial and just simply based on what's good for me and what will make me comfortable and what do I enjoy and what do I want. And there's thousands, millions of people all around the world, past, present, and unfortunately probably even in the future, who will end their life saying to themselves, I wish I would have done that. I wish I would have tried that. I wish, I would have, I could have, if I only could have, I should have. Oh, I just wish I had done something different with my life. Nehemiah is not that guy. Nehemiah is the guy who says, I want my life to make a difference. Look at your neighbor right now and say, my life's going to make a difference. Look at your other neighbor, the one you just ignored, and say, my life's going to make a difference. I know you don't like them as much, but it's okay. Nehemiah wants his life to make a difference. Now, if you're just coming today for the very first time, or maybe you missed a week or two of the series that Pastor Dave started a couple weeks ago, maybe you're just not familiar that well with the story of Nehemiah. Let me give you some context real quick, just so we can get all on the same page, right? So the year is 444 BC, and the nation of Israel, the capital city of that nation is Jerusalem. Jerusalem, for 140 years now, has been in ruins. The walls had been torn down, the gate had been burned down, and it's been this way for 140 years. They were attacked 140 years prior by a Persian empire, and when that empire came in, they did what most enemy armies do. They burn down the walls of the city, and they basically leave the city defenseless so that those who live there have really no way of establishing a healthy culture, a good economy, all the things that are really needed, especially in that historical era, for having like a good, healthy city. They burned all the walls down. They took a bunch of the people with them because they wanted to indoctrinate those people in a new country, a new language, a new way of thinking, and then they left some behind. So 140 years of this has happened. And Nehemiah, who is a Jew, he's a Hebrew, his family roots are there in Jerusalem, but he's born in this Persian Empire because his family was taken there. Nehemiah finds himself in the very, very fortunate situation of being the cupbearer to the king. King Artaxerxes was the king's name. Now, the cupbearer, if you don't know this, the cupbearer, like he had a great job. Cupbearer's job was to pour wine for the king, taste test the wine to make sure it wasn't poison, there's no assassination plot going on, and then he'd serve it to the king. So he's in a very trusted relationship with one of the most powerful men in the world. So Nehemiah has like some serious influence because of his relationship with the king. One day, we don't know all the ways how and why this happened, but one day Nehemiah is informed of the condition of the city of Jerusalem, where his ancestors are living and where he's originally from, his family roots are from. And when he finds out, oh my goodness, Jerusalem is in ruins, the walls have been torn down, the gates have been burned, the temple isn't functioning, people are living, they're discouraged, they're depressed, they're despondent. It's just like there's nothing worth living for. And it breaks his heart. This is what Pastor talked about 2 weeks ago when we started the series. He said, great people, great leaders, world changers like Nehemiah, they sit down and they weep, and then they stand up and they act, right? And then last week, Pastor talked about Nehemiah's prayer life and how Nehemiah prayed and when he prayed and why he prayed and all those different aspects, right? So here today, what I want to do is I want to get real practical with you for a little bit. There'll be some inspiration too, but I want to get real practical with you because I want to help you figure out how you can sit down and write out a mission statement that's as clear as what Nehemiah's mission statement was. Because Nehemiah was like, I know what the purpose of my life is going to be all about. I have a mission. I've got a plan for my life. Like, it's going to make a difference. I'm going to do something that's going to make a difference in the world. Not just for me, but for someone else. Look at your neighbor and say, I got a mission. Which one did you look at, by the way? Okay. You need to think about that every time. Make sure you balance it out, okay? Because we might do that a couple times, right? All right. So now you got the context. You kind of understand the story. We're all together. We're all on the same page now, right? We all know where everyone say, I got it. Okay, good. Okay. So here we go. How do you do it? How do you live a life of mission? Right? How do you not allow yourself to live a life that's similar to the Jews that are living in Jerusalem now for 140 years? Think about this for a second. 140 years. How many generations is that? At least 3 or 4 generations of families. 140 years of depression, discouragement, despondency, no walls, everyone's living in ruins, and no one can do anything about it. Isn't it interesting how many people are okay living that way? It's sad. It is. It's sad. How many people, just think about it. You know people. You know family members. You know work associates. You know students in the school that you go to, students in the college that you're at. You know people that for some reason are more than content to live in the ruins of their life. And to just simply say, you know what? Nothing can be done about it. It doesn't matter. Who cares? It's been this way forever. It'll never change. You see, this is the reason why some of your families are the way that they are. Because you sit and you look at your situation and you say, my great-granddad was that way, and my great-grandfather was that way, and my grandfather was that way, and my dad was that way, and I guess I'm stuck living in the ruins of what they've always lived in their whole life. And see, there's something that needs to be birthed inside of you, and something needs to be birthed inside of me. It's that same thing that was birthed inside of Nehemiah, where he says, you know what? I'm not living my life that way. My life's going to make a difference. I'm going to make a difference in this world, not just good for me, but for good for other people around. Nehemiah could have comfortably lived as the cupbearer to the king for the rest of his life, but something inside of him clicked where he said, you know what? When it's all said and done and life is over, I'm not just going to be another guy in the history books that handed a cup of wine to the king. My life's going to matter and make a difference. I want to stir some of that up in you, but I want to be practical in how we do it. So I'm going to give you just a couple things to think about here, right? Here we go. Here's the first one, right? Prepare your path. Prepare your path. Take some notes. Write some stuff down today. Put it in your phone, right? Write it on your neighbor's hand, whatever you got to do. Prepare your path. Here's another way that I could say this, right? Have a purpose for your life. Have a mission statement for your life. Have a very specific thing that you want to do. Let's go to the text here real quick. Nehemiah chapter 1, verses 4 and 5. The king said to me, what is it you want? And then I prayed to the God of heaven, and I answered the king, if it pleases the king, and if your servant has found favor in his sight, I'm sorry, this is actually Nehemiah 2, right? If the king has found favor in his sight, let me switch over to here so I'll get this right for you. If the king has found favor in his sight, let him send me to the city in Judah, that's Jerusalem, where my ancestors are buried so that I can rebuild it, so that I can build a wall. Everyone say build a wall. Right? I'm not trying to bring up memories of a 2016 presidential election right now. I promise. I'm really not. No political commentary will be given in this message about your opinion or my opinion of a wall, right? But Nehemiah knew what his mission was. He was very specific. If someone said to Nehemiah, what's your goal in life? His goal is, I'm going to build a wall. That's what I'm going to do. I mean, he could have picked a bunch of different stuff, right? He could have said, I'm going to make the economy better. I'm going to get jobs back for people. I'm going to get rid of corrupt politicians. I'm going to rid the city of Jerusalem from all stray cats. That would be a very noble mission, to get rid of all the cats in the entire world, actually. But Nehemiah is like, I know what my mission is. My mission is I'm going to build a wall. What's your mission? What's your mission? Do you know what it is? If someone asked you right now and it just said, what's your mission? Would it be like, boom, boom, there, I know exactly, this is what I'm called to do. This is what I'm going to do. This is my mission in life. Or would it be like, well, I'm kind of trying to just right now work through like this season that I'm in. I'm just kind of like probably thinking about maybe possibly doing something slightly kind of sort of maybe like just in the field of, I'm not exactly sure, but like, because that's where most of us live. We live in this land of like vagueness so that, we can kind of just make it up as we go along. Nehemiah's like, no. If you're going to make a difference in life, you're going to have to prepare your path. You're going to have to know exactly what it is that you want to do. This is what Elevate One Day is all about, by the way. It's all about you and I taking the time, coming away for about a half a day on Saturday, May the 12th, and simply saying, you know what? When this day is over, I'm going to have more clarity on who I am and what I'm called to do and the mission that I'm going to accomplish in my life. When you come to Elevate One Day, we're going to help you work through these 3 questions right here and a lot of others as well. Where am I at right now? Where do I want to be? How am I going to get there? A lot of people don't take the time to work through this kind of stuff. They don't assess correctly, this is where I'm at. They don't take the time to think about where they want to be. And then they don't take the time to actually make plans to get from A to B to C to D and on and on and on. That's why we're doing Elevate One Day, so that you can walk away from that day and you can say, I know what my mission is. My mission is to get out of debt, or my mission is to raise money, or my mission is to start a brand new business, or my mission is to be the first person in my family to graduate from high school. My mission is to be the first person in my family to actually have a bachelor's degree. My mission in life is to pass on the baton of faith to my kids and to raise up young men and women of God and send them out like arrows into the darkness of this world so they can be the light of the gospel of Jesus Christ. You got to know. You got to know what your mission is. You have to say, this is where I'm at. This is where I want to be. This is how I'm going to get there. That's called preparing your path, right? Got it? Everyone say, I got it. All right, here we go. This is the next thing that Nehemiah does. You got to plan with precision. You have to plan with precision. Prepare your path, plan with precision. Prepare your path, plan with precision. I'm using a lot of words that start with the letter P because my kids made me watch Mr. Popper's Penguins the other day, and now I'm all messed up, and I'm sorry. I apologize, right? You got to plan with precision. Now, back to the story real quick. From the time Nehemiah finds out this is what's going on in Jerusalem, this is what the walls look like, so the time that he actually begins to talk about it to King Artaxerxes, 4 months has taken time. 4 months, right? And so during that 4 months, Nehemiah is planning and preparing and praying and planning and preparing and playing. I'm sorry, again, I know it's all P words right now. He's planning and he's preparing and he's praying over and over again. Here's what the text says, right? How do we do it? How do we plan with precision like Nehemiah did? I'm going to break this down for you real quick. Here's the first thing you got to do. You got to think about it. You got to think about, what is it that I want to do? What is it that I want my life to count for? What do I want to be known for? Not being known for because I'm famous or because of my name, but I'm known for making this difference in my life. I got to think about it. Did you know that Albert Einstein had what he called a thinking chair? Yeah, you can read about it, right? They say that Albert Einstein would once a day, or maybe it was more, or maybe once every other day, I don't know, but he would sit on his thinking chair and he would just think. He just would think. He would think. And they called it his thinking chair. He would take time every day just to think, right? I know this is very hard for us in our day and our culture to understand the idea of thinking, right? Because we have smartphones that do the thinking for us, right? I don't need to think about it. My phone will just tell me what it is to do, right? I read an article the other day that said, the title of the article was, "Smartphones Are Making Us Dumb." And I was like, oh, that's kind of interesting. So I started reading it. And the article, basically, the premise of it was that you can get information so quickly online now that it causes you to just assimilate all the information, but you don't actually take the time to think about it, right? And I was a little convicted by it because I was thinking about all the times that my kids would ask me questions, and I didn't really want to think about the answers to the questions, and I'm like, oh, just Google it. Wikipedia, it's always right? And we're putting ourselves in a situation where it's like, hey, I don't need to think about things anymore. This is how a lot of people live their life, by the way. Tell me what to do. Tell me what to think. Tell me what the purpose or goal for my life should be, right? Oh, I just put a post out there and you like it. That's what I should do with my life right now. This is how most of us live our lives. Instead of actually sitting down and thinking about it, right? Back to the text here real quick. Nehemiah chapter 2. In the month of Nisan, not the car dealership, in the 20th year of King Artaxerxes, little piece of history here. King Artaxerxes, 20 years. For 20 years, the king, just hold this thought to the end of the message because I'm going to come back to it. For 20 years, King Artaxerxes has been the guy who has said, no wall shall be rebuilt around Jerusalem. He's the very reason that there isn't a wall. It's because he's prohibited from happening. Just hold on to that thought. When the wine was brought for him, I took the wine, I gave it to the king. I had not been sad in his presence before. So the king asked me, why does your face look sad when you are not ill? They know each other very well. And so the king knows you're not sick, you're just sad. This is why he says, this can be nothing but sadness of the heart. I was very much afraid. But I said to the king, may the king live forever. Why should my face not look sad when the city where my ancestors are buried lies in ruins? Its gates have been destroyed by fire. The king said to me, what is it that you want? Nehemiah has been thinking about this for 4 months now. Now he finally has the opportunity to have the conversation with the king. And the king says to him the magic phrase, what is it that you want? Here's the next one. You have to be ready for your moment. You got to be ready. If you don't spend time thinking about it, you won't be ready for your moment. This is Nehemiah's 2-minute elevator pitch right here that the business journals write about, where they say sometimes you meet that person, you meet that entrepreneur, you meet that person that could invest in your business, and you got 2 minutes to pitch it to them, right? This is Nehemiah's Shark Tank moment, where he gets to stand up and he's got just like a couple minutes to convince these guys, in this case, King Artaxerxes, hey, you should really consider what it is that I'm thinking about and what I'm passionate about, right? You got to be ready. You got to be ready for the moment. I'm going to take you back to the text again. I want to keep breaking this down. In the month of Nisan, 20th year, bring wine to the king, gave it to the king. He hadn't been sad in the presence of the king before. The king says, why does your face look so sad? You're not ill. This is sadness of the heart. I was afraid. Let's pause here for a second. If you've got a mission in your life, and you've got a purpose, and you've got passion, and you've got something that you want your life to count for, when your moment finally comes, you've thought about it, now you're ready for your moment, and now you finally get to make that pitch to that person or to that organization or to the investors or whatever it is. You finally get to stand in front of the college board and convince them why you should be accepted into their program or whatever it is, right? It says this, Nehemiah says, I was very much afraid. Let me say it like this to you. If your mission and your purpose in life isn't something so big that at times it's not intimidating and fearful to you, then friend, you are thinking way too small. You're going to be afraid. You're going to deal with some fear. Some of you, if you were brave enough to admit it right now, you would say, well, the reason I don't really want to go to something like an Elevate one day is because I'm just afraid. I'm just afraid that I won't be able to figure it out. I'm just afraid. I've tried before. I'm afraid that I might fail. And so here's what we do. It's so sad. There's this myth in the kingdom of God and in the church world that all the great ones, all the great men and women of God, doesn't matter whether you're a pastor or whatever you're doing in the kingdom of God. You don't have to be working in a church. You could just be out there making money and investing and doing mission stuff, whatever, right? But there's this myth out there that all the great ones somehow were born with the natural ability to not ever be afraid. That's not true. That's not true, friend. You're going to deal with fear. We all deal with fear, right? When my wife and I did student ministry, we took students on mission trips all over the world, right? About 24 different trips we took with students. And every time we would take a group of students, there's fear that's involved with it. There's fear on their part, because for many of them, it would be their very first time ever going on an overseas trip of any kind. There's fear on the side of the parent, because the parent's like, oh my gosh, what are you going to do with my little kid, right? You remember, all you parents, you remember what it felt like when your kid got on the bus to go to camp last summer, and you're like, oh, this is kind of scary. Actually, most of you were like, yay! Sorry, there's that cough. Don't run away and hide like my dog does, okay? But that's how I watched you. Most of you were like, this is awesome. Pastor Taylor needs to take him to camp all summer long. But I used to tell students all the time when they were on their trip, I used to say to them, at some point on this trip, you're going to have a moment where you're going to have a lot of fear. And there's a moment where I'm going to ask you to have a lot of faith. And there's going to be a collision of those two worlds inside of you. And I don't want you to make the mistake of praying the wrong prayer. The wrong prayer that most students pray, and it's the same thing, we do it as adults all the time. The wrong prayer most of us pray is, God, eradicate the fear. Just get rid of it. And God, if you make me not afraid to actually go out and allow my life to be used to make a difference in this world, if I'm not afraid to do that, then I'll actually go ahead and do it. And God can't answer that prayer, friend. It's not a biblical prayer. God can't answer that prayer because here's what fear does. Fear just means you're alive. Fear just means you are a breathing human being. And if you pray, God, get rid of my fear, you're basically saying, God, just kill me so that I'm dead, because only dead people aren't afraid of stuff anymore. So I should say to students, don't pray the wrong prayer. Don't pray that God will get rid of your fear. Pray that God will make your faith greater than your fear. Pray that God will allow your faith just to be slightly stronger so that when the collision takes place, the faith is what wins out. This is what's happening for Nehemiah right now. His moment has come, and he's like, I got to choose faith, I got to choose fear, I got to choose faith, I got to choose fear. And he chooses faith, and he steps into this moment because he's ready, because he spent 4 months getting ready. And he's got a plan. He's planned it out with precision, right? Here he goes. He says, I said to the king, may the king live forever. Why should my face not look sad when the city where my ancestors are buried lies in ruins? Its gates have been destroyed by fire. And the king said to me, what is it that you want? And then I prayed to the God of heaven, and I answered the king. This is like when you throw up like that quick little prayer because you're right in the middle of your moment. And you're like, oh, God, help me, God, help me, God. You know what this is like because you prayed it before every algebra test when you were in high school. And you're like, oh, God, 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 help me. I did it for 3 years, and I failed every one of those tests. You know why? This prayer only works if you actually did what Nehemiah did. Nehemiah spent 4 months praying and preparing for this moment. That's why it worked. If I had just studied for the dang algebra test, then maybe my prayer would have actually worked. Don't throw up the quickie prayer and ask God to rescue you and bail you out when you've put no effort into planning and praying and preparing for it. Nehemiah spent 4 months working on it. I prayed to the God of heaven. I answered the king, if it pleased the king. And if your servant has found favor in his sight, and if you like me, right? Let him send me to the city in Judah where my ancestors are buried so that I can rebuild it, right? You got to make the ask. You got to think about it, and then you have to prepare for your moment, and then you have to be willing to make the ask. You got to be able to ask for it and say, okay, here's the moment. I got to do it. I got to do it right now. Here's what Nehemiah does, right? Here we go. What do you want? I prayed. The king said, hey, what do you want? I answered the king, if I found favor in your eyes, and let me go back and let me rebuild the city, right? I also said to him, here's the asks now. I also said to him, king, can I have letters to the governors of Trans-Euphrates so that they will provide me safe conduct until I arrive in Judah? Translation, would you be willing to write a reference for me? Would you be willing to put it on my resume? Would you be willing to make some phone calls on my behalf, send some text messages to some people in your network? Would you be willing to get me an appointment with that person who's doing exactly what it is that I want to do? See, most of us don't prepare this way, right? We've got this small mindset about our lives, or this little thing that we want to accomplish with our life. See, some of you, the only thing you want to accomplish with your life is something that you can do with your own strength, your own ability, your own time, and your own money. And God will never bless that. He won't. God wants you to have something about your life and your passion and your burden that's so big that the kind of conversations you're having with God sound like this. God, if you don't show up in this moment, and if you don't grant me with favor, and if you don't bless me with opportunity, and if you don't open the right doors for me to have the right conversations with the right people at the right time, God, I'm trying to do this, and I'm trying to make a difference in this world, but if you don't do it, there's no way I can handle it on my own. You're going to have to step in. That's the kind of faith that God wants in our life, in our church. That's what he wants. And Nehemiah, he's not afraid to make the ask, and he says to the king, King, can I borrow some of your influence? Can you write me a reference? Can you connect me with the right people? Right? And then he's not even done asking. After that, he says, and can I get a letter to Asaph, the keeper of the royal park? Right? This isn't like an amusement park. It's not Dorney Park. Right? It's like a park full of timber that they would use to build things, walls and gates and stuff like that. So he says, I want to get some timber. I want to make beams for the gates of the citadel by the temple and for the city wall. And he's like the kid right now who's asking you for money. Hey, can I get $10? And can I get a new iPhone next month? and can I get a car? Like, it just never ends if you're a parent, by the way. You know that, right? And there's always an and. This is what Nehemiah is doing right now. He's like, hey, I want to rebuild the gates by the temple. I want to get some wood for the walls of the city, and I want to build a new house while I'm there. Just, a nice little place for me to live. And because of the gracious hand of my God was on me, the king granted my request. Let me translate all this. Hey, king, can I get the company credit card for this trip? Would you mind just signing off in advance on the PO for all of these expenses right now? Just kind of give me a blank check. You know what I'm saying? And, by the way, it's going to be like $1,000-mile journey from here to, the nation of Israel and Jerusalem. So the Uber bill is going to be out of this world. But can I just use your account for that? Can you cover that for me? Yeah, don't be afraid to make the ask is what I'm trying to say. If you've planned it out and you've prayed about it and you say, I got vision, I got mission, I know exactly what it is that I want to do with my life, there's going to come a moment where you ask, and when you ask big, because your big ask and your big prayers really honor God. Like God looks at it and he says, those are the type of people that I want in my life, in this world, people that are going to believe and have a big dream that I have to step in and intervene on behalf of. Here's the last one. You got to set a deadline. This is the one everyone hates. Because this is where you have to commit and say, okay, I thought about it, and I planned it out, and I was ready for my moment, and then I made my ask, and then, man, you know what? Now I got to put a deadline to it. And I got to hold myself to it, and I got to just say, okay, by this time I'm going to do this. This is what I'm going to accomplish. Right? This is what happened for Nehemiah. The king with the queen sitting beside him said, how long will your journey take? And when will you get back? And it pleased the king, and so I set a time. He just set a time. I hate deadlines. Does anyone like deadlines? You don't. Okay, why are you raising your hand right now? You don't like deadlines, right? Okay, no, go. I thought you were one of those weird people who like deadlines, and I was going to pray for you real quick, and I was going to. I just do. I'm just not I'm not wired that way, But the deadline is what holds you accountable. The deadline is what drives you to accomplish the mission. The deadline is what puts you on a path to say, this is what I want to accomplish, and this is how I'm going to get there, and this is when I want to get there by, right? If you don't have a deadline, all you have is a pipe dream. You're never actually going to get there. Let me explain how this worked in my life personally, right? So about a year ago, my family and I were up for Easter weekend here at Community Church. It was before we were on staff here. And I had just gotten done preaching at the Pendle Youth Convention, which is an event that a lot of our students here in the youth ministry attend on an annual basis. And so I had preached that event, and then I had come up here, and I was jumping in. Caleb, my son, and I were jumping in and playing music with Mike and the team and all of that. And so at one point, I was sitting back in the green room with Pastor Dave. And Pastor and I have been friends for about 2 decades now, which just goes to show you how old I really am. And so we're talking and everything. And so he was asking me, he said, hey, tell me about convention and how did it go and what did you preach on? And I was like, oh, yeah, I said I did this little 3-part series on Psalm 23. It's just something that I really like, And I've had this kind of conversation with other preachers before, and usually they all kind of give me the same facial expression in response when I say that I'm going to preach on Psalm 23. They're all just kind of like, oh, okay. And what they're really saying is like, that sounds terrible, actually. Like, everyone knows that passage of Scripture. Like, why would you do that? Like, pick something that people don't know. But then I went on, and I was just like, yeah, but hang on a second. I think that, like, a lot of people misunderstand it. A lot of people think that it was like, Psalm 23 is like the psalm for dying, but I actually think it's more of a guide for living. Right? And so I started talking with Pastor about the whole thing and just some of the different interpretations that I found and different research that I stumbled upon. And he looked at me and this is what he said to me. He was like, dude, I never heard anyone explain it that way before. And he said, you know what? You need to write a book about that. And when he said that, it put it in my heart. Kind of in the same way that when someone said to Nehemiah, someone needs to do something about the ruins of Jerusalem. Kind of in the same way that you've had a moment maybe in your life where someone's looked at you and said, you should do something about that. And so about a year ago, I set out and I said, I want to do this. I want to take all this material, all this research. I want to start working towards this. And then we hit January, and I decided that I was going to make it like a New Year's resolution, and I was going to start writing this book. And so I started writing. And I don't know exactly when it was. It was sometime in January. But I was sitting in Pastor Andy's office. Pastor Andy's our executive pastor here at the church. I was sitting in his office. If you know Pastor Andy, you know that he is like the management, time efficiency, productivity guru. Like he just like he drives me crazy because everything's just like this will take me 2 minutes, this will take me 36 seconds, this will take me 7 minutes exactly. And I'm just like, dude, let's just go to lunch, man. Like let's just come on, bro. Like, but I love it because like it pushes me and challenges me. And so one day we were talking, and so I shared with him. I said, hey, I'm writing a book, and he was like, cool. What's the deadline? And I'm like, no, just like pat me on the back because I'm gonna write a book. And he's like, great, man. What's the deadline? I'm like, I don't know. I didn't set one. He's like, well, you got to set one. If you don't set one, you're never gonna get it done. Dude, just like stop it. Like encourage me right now. I'm trying to step out in faith and do something I've never done before. And he's like, I'm just saying, if you don't have a deadline, then it's just a pipe dream. You're never gonna get it done. I'm like, I hate you. But God used it. And so I said to him, I want to have it done by the Lead a Generation conference. That was yesterday. But here's the book. And listen, I appreciate the affirmation, I really do, but I'm only using it as an illustration so that you know that God will bring the right people around you to speak the word into your life, to say you should do something about this. And God will bring the right people around like Pastor Andy to say, let me help you understand where you're at and where you want to get to and how you're going to get there in the time that you have to work with it, right? This is how it works when you set a deadline. So check this out. I wrote this as a gift to the body of Christ and to this church. It's going to release on May the 6th. There'll be a book table. If you are like a person who's like, I have to have a paperback version, there'll be copies then that you can actually buy. And if you can do that, if you want to get the book, if you want to support the nonprofit, that's where all the proceeds go to, you can do that. But I wrote it as a gift, and so here's the deal. You can get it for free on Kindle on May the 6th for 48 hours. It's going to be absolutely free. You can just go download it, and that way it really is a gift to you. If you want to buy it, you can. If you want to just take it and be blessed by it, you can take it, and you can be blessed by it, right? But you got to set a deadline. Now, here's the last one. Band, come on out. Let's wrap this up. Here's the last one, right? You have to persuade with passion. You have to prepare your path. That was number one. You have to plan with precision. That was number two. And then you have to end it by persuading people with passion. This is my mission. This is my life calling. This is what I'm going to do with my life. Watch how Nehemiah does it. I went to Jerusalem. After staying there for 3 days, I set out during the night with a few others. I had not told anyone what God had put in my heart. Let me pause there for a second. There's a time. It might be a couple weeks, it might be a couple months, it might be longer for some of us. But there's a time where the dream that God has put in your heart is just for you, and you let that germinate in your heart for a season. Because all it takes is maybe 1 or 2 words of negativity, and they snuff it out. And you're like, oh, forget it, I'm not even going to try. So don't walk out of here today and post it all over Facebook. I'm going to, blah, 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 blah. It might not be ready yet. There'll be a time, right? I didn't tell anyone what God had put in my heart to do for Jerusalem. There were no mounts with me. He's talking about the horses that he's riding on. There were no mounts with me except the one I was riding on, so he's all by himself. By night, I went out through the valley gate towards the jackal well, to the dung gate. I don't know why he went to the dung gate. That just sounds like a terrible place to go to me. Examining the walls of Jerusalem, which had been broken down, its gates had been destroyed by fire. And then I moved on towards the fountain gate and the king's pool, but there was not enough room for my mount to get through. And so then I went up the valley by night, examining the wall, and finally I turned back and I re-entered through the valley gate. The officials did not know where I had gone, what I was doing, because as of yet I had said nothing to the Jews, or the priests, or the nobles, or the officials, or any others who would be doing the work. He's like on like a Tom Cruise Mission Impossible thing, like no one knows. He's like a secret spy. And he doesn't tell the people that are living there, the Jews, the priests, the nobles, or the officials. I have a theory here that the reason Nehemiah doesn't tell them up front what he's doing is because these people were content to live in ruins for 140 years. I have a fear right now as well. And my fear is that there's some people sitting in this room that are just as content living in the ruins of your current life. And so when we talk about things like getting a mission for life and accomplishing something great and making a difference in this world for someone other than yourself, it's hard for you to get your head around it. It's hard for you to get your heart around it because you've been so comfortable living in the ruins of your family's generations from one to the next, to the next, to the next, to the next, and you can't see your way out. These men couldn't see their way out of it. And then God brought along a man named Nehemiah who had a little bit of vision for his life and had a little bit of planning ability with his life and had a little bit of passion. And Nehemiah comes along and he starts to pull people out of their ruins and pull people out of their depression and pull people out of the despondency and pull people out of the discouragement. I just want you to know I came along today to be like a voice of Nehemiah in your life, to pull you out of the ruins that you've allowed yourself to live comfortably in for many, many years. That's what this whole series is all about. It's about you and I saying, I'm not content to keep living my life the way I'm living my life. I'm going to make the rest of my life the best of my life. Something is going to change. Almost done. Then I said to them, here it is. Here's the speech. Here's his campaign stump speech going on right now, right? It's not dark anymore. He's standing up in front of everybody. Here's the speech. You see the trouble we're in? Jerusalem lies in ruins. Its gates have been burned with fire. Come on, people. Let's rebuild the wall of Jerusalem. We'll no longer be in disgrace. And then I also told them about the gracious hand of my God on me and what the king had said to me. And they replied, let's build a wall. Let's build a wall. And so we began this good work. Now this is important. I want you to clearly understand what Nehemiah did here. When you get your moment to cast vision for your life mission, here's the 4 questions that you have to answer. These are really, really quick. How are you going to speak with passion? You got to talk about the problem. What's the problem? Nehemiah's like, we got a problem, people. We got no gates. We got no walls. The temple isn't working right. We got a major problem. We got no security. The boundaries have been torn down. We got a problem. All the people are like, yep, you're right. We got a problem. Nehemiah's like, all right, cool. Got him on question number 1. He goes to number 2. What's the solution? He says, you know what we should do? We should build a wall. We should build a brand new wall. You know what we should do? We should all come together. We should all work together, and we should build something. We should make something great out of what we have right here. Everyone's like, that sounds awesome. Yeah, that would be great. I've been living in these ruins for how many years? That sounds great. I love that plan. I love that solution. Nehemiah's like, I got him on number 2. He goes on to number 3. Let me tell them why. Let me tell them why. He says, you know why we should do this? We should do this because we're a disgrace to the name of our God right now because of the condition of our city. And we should do this because we're not passing on a greater heritage to our kids right now. The next generation coming behind us is going to live in the same bondage and slavery that we've been living in and the same ruins we've been living in. And so here's why we should do it. We should do it for our kids. We should do it for the people coming behind us. Everyone's like, yep, amen, holler. Oh yeah, pastor, let's go. We should do it. Here's the most important question though. Nehemiah's like, I got him on number 3. Number 4, let me tell you why we should do it right now. Nehemiah says, you know why we need to do this? You know why we need to do it right now? We need to do it right now because God has given us favor. God has been gracious to us. And King Artaxerxes, the king who wouldn't let us build a wall for 20 years, gave me the company credit card and said, I'll pay for the whole thing. Go ahead and do the work. And I'm just telling you, if you want to make a difference in your life, don't be afraid to speak with passion and persuade people. Tell them about the problem, the solution, the why, and the why now. Walk them through all of it. Now, here's your options. You can go live the rest of your life like most people in our country do. You can live it for yourself. You can live it for your own benefit. You can live it for your own good. You can live it just to make life more and more comfortable for yourself. You can live it that way if you want to live it that way. Here's how it's going to end for you. One day you're going to be taking your final breath on your deathbed, and the thoughts that are going to be running through your mind are going to be thoughts that sound like this. I wish I would have. I really should have. I think I probably could have. If I could get that one moment back, I think I would have. Those are all what sociologists call inaction regrets. And if you want to end your life with the bitter taste of regret in your mouth, then you just go ahead and keep on living it the way you're living it. But if you want a different path forward in life, and if you want your life to count for something, and if you want the final shovel of dirt to be thrown on your graveyard one day, your grave tomb one day, whatever that thing is that you're going to get thrown in, right? When they throw the final shovel of dirt on that, when those people walk away and they begin to say things like, that person made a difference for the world around him. If that's the kind of life that you want to live, a life when you're taking your last breath on a deathbed, you're saying, God, I did everything you wanted me to do. God, I gave every ounce of strength and energy to doing what you wanted me to do and becoming who you wanted me to become. God, I can rest in peace right now because my life has made a difference. If that's the kind of life you want, then today there's an opportunity for you to say, I'm going to make a change, and I'm going to make some decisions, and the rest of my life is going to become the best of my life. All across this room, would you stand to your feet right now? And I'm praying that right now in this moment, if you feel comfortable, as you raise your hands to heaven right now, go ahead. If you feel comfortable, raise them up. As you raise your hands to heaven right now, I'm praying that the Holy Spirit, the presence of God, will begin to speak into your heart right now in this moment, that He begin to give you glorious burden and glorious passion for the things of God that He's called you to. That God would begin to reveal to you His plans and His purposes and His positioning for you in this world, in this life. He wants you to make a difference in this world. And so with hands lifted high, just now you begin to speak to God and allow the Spirit of God to speak into your heart right now. Come on, just go ahead and talk to Him right now for just a moment. Go ahead and lift your voice right now.